Hey there, welcome back to another I Care for Your Brain with board-certified neuropsychologist, Dr. Karen Sullivan. Last week, I took the voting to the people and I asked you to vote on 3 different brain health supplements, and the people have spoken. The topic tonight is lion's mane mushroom. The medicinal nature of mushrooms is getting a lot of attention in recent history. Mushrooms are complex and have provided us with one of the most important life-saving compounds ever discovered, antibiotics, with the discovery of penicillin. Yet some are deadly, so we have this wide range of potential applications, some for the better, some for the worse. They get to claim the right of having their own kingdom, so they are neither plant nor animal. They are entirely different beings. They are fungi. We have lower fungi and higher fungi. Lower fungi are not visible to the human eye, and the higher are visible, like mushrooms. This fungi has emerged anywhere from 4.6 billion to 541 million years ago. So we are talking about very, very ancient compounds here. Humans have been eating mushrooms since our hunter and gatherer days. There are probably over 14,000 mushroom-producing fungi that have been described, and about 2,000 of them are thought to be fit for human consumption. It is likely that what we know is only a small portion of what actually exists in the fungi kingdom. They get our attention, mushrooms do, because we can see them. They are colorful, and really they're quite beautiful. Edible mushrooms are used all around the world for their medicinal properties, their nourishing properties, perhaps in reducing risk of disease, and of course their consciousness expanding properties. Tonight our focus is on lion's mane because it often gets talked about as the mushroom with the strongest amount of brain health boosting power. This is a fungi that goes by many different names: the bearded tooth carpivore, the monkey head mushroom, and the mountain monk mushroom. I stated in my last lecture, it's white, it's kind of globe-shaped, it's got these long shaggy spines, and it grows on the trunks of dead or decaying deciduous trees. It is found in the northern hemisphere. One of the fastest growing branches in horticulture is mushroom growing. About 90% of the mushroom companies in the world are located in China. Lion's mane has a protected status all across the world in many countries. So if you are in England, Wales, or Poland, you cannot pick it. You can dry it and put it in a pill, but it is most commonly used as a tincture or in a tea. You also can buy pasta that has been fortified with its powder. And even though some people think lion's mane tastes good, eating it raw is not recommended because there is an indigestible fiber that goes around it that is blocks the absorption of it in the stomach. So in traditional Chinese medicine, it has always been prepared by hot water extraction. And still to this day, people who study medicinal mushrooms say that really liquid extracts are the most potent way to get it. And actually having it be maintained in alcohol is best for keeping its qualities as bioavailable as possible. People often believe also that the fruiting body of the lion's mane is where we should be pulling any compounds from. So in traditional Chinese medicine, lion's mane mushroom has a very long history, but recently it's come into the whole food as medicine or functional food movement, which is where we say these foods not only taste good and promote optimal health, but also do they reduce disease risk. So lion's mane has a lot of purported health benefits with the immune system, digestion, enhancing creativity, protection against cancer. But what we're going to focus on tonight are the purported effects on the regenerative capability in both the central and peripheral nervous system, central nervous system being the brain. So in the brain health world, the neuroprotective properties are supposedly related to something called nerve growth factor synthesis, which in turn supports the growth of new axons or dendrites in the brain. NGF, as we call them, nerve growth hormones, are neurotropic factors, neuropeptides that are involved in the regulation, the encouragement of the growth, maintenance, proliferation, and survival of brain health cells. So is this hype? Is this promising? That's what we're going to cover tonight. The composition of lion's mane is 70% water, 30% other stuff. Of that other stuff, 50 to 67% are carbohydrate, 20 to 22% is protein, and 2.8 to 3.5 is fats. What we really care about, though, are the trace element minerals and the biologically active compounds that are reported to have the most power in terms of brain health. So it is specifically the neuroactive compounds. So these are thought by fans of lion's mane to pass through the blood-brain barrier and have a direct impact on brain cell function. The compounds that they often reference are called HTP, 5-HTP, so 5-hydroxy L-tryptophan. That's one. Melatonin is the next one, only found in the stem. Phenols, and tryptamine. So therapeutically, these are thought to act through their strong antioxidant properties. And again, that stimulation, the key thing with lion's mane that people think helps is the nerve growth factor, which really supports connections in the brain between nerve cells, neurons, after some type of injury. So stroke, brain injury, but also things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, even depression. So what we're really trying to get at here is neuroplasticity. Does lion's mane enhance neuroplasticity? So after a brain cell has been injured, what we often see is two processes that occur. The first one is trying to grow an entire new brain cell. The second is the healthy brain cells that are around the injured ones trying to form new connections to compensate for the ones that have been lost. And oftentimes that second process is what is happening more often. So when this doesn't happen, clearly we get a breakdown in communication between the healthy neurons and a cascade of events takes place that ultimately reduces the ability of neurons to regenerate and more cell death, more loss of function or ability in everyday life. So we do want to support these connections. We know a lot about neuroplasticity. We know that nerve growth hormone does have a powerful effect on nerve cell growth. I've often thought of it kind of like a fertilizer that you put on, a plant. So the question is, can lion's mane do that? Does it actually get into the brain? Can it extend and connect projections to other neurons, and can it accelerate recovery from injury? So the first thing we do is we go to the high quality research. I am not going to look at studies that have been sponsored by industry. We're not going to look at studies that are published in boutique journals, so they have to be peer reviewed. So when I narrow my focus down to the highest quality scientific studies that are out there, it is slim pickings out there, but I want to review those. There are two branches of the research on lion's mane. So there's lab studies, which are mostly being done in cell cultures or small animal models like rats, mice, and chicks. And then we have the actual human studies. So let's first go through the animal studies and see what we have there. So when you try to see the impact of lion's mane, putting a bit of a sample of it, a distilled sample of it, into a brain cell of an animal in a petri dish, we do see that there is less inflammation. We do see an increase in nerve growth factor expression. We do see a decrease in amyloid beta toxicity, one of the pathogenetic reasons that we develop the clinical phenomenon of Alzheimer's disease. We do see protection from oxidative stress and an increase in myelination. That's pretty impressive. We've seen it now this is in a petri dish, remember. We've seen it with neurons, brain cells, spinal cord cells, and retinal cells. So you always remember eyes are a part of the brain. Retinal cells are actually a part of the brain. And what we see is that there's a sweet spot of the dose. So it wasn't the lowest and it wasn't the highest doses. It was actually the middle doses. So that does suggest some degree of what we call a dose-dependent relationship, which is one of those kind of buzzwords and insights that we like to see in neuroscientific literature. It means it's not just merely a correlation. There's not just a relationship as one goes up, the other goes up. There actually is some kind of stepwise relationship. So what these researchers, when they really drill down, what they're seeing is an increase in what we call the growth cone, which allows one neuron over here to start touching another neuron over here. But remember, these are done in petri dishes, or they're done in a rodent model, or they're done in a chick model. This doesn't always mean it's going to be relevant or pertinent to humans. Doesn't always mean we would actually see an improvement in function. That's a huge thing in neuroscience, is to remember there are structural brain changes that we can see at the level of a brain under a microscope or in a dish, or functional changes, which is our improved memory, being able to get to the store without getting lost, remembering items without needing a grocery list. We have a huge difference in brain health science and the application of brain health information by thinking about that difference. There was one study that actually bridged that gap, and it was done on mice. So this was looking at mice getting better going through what we call a Y maze or a water maze. This is a very common research paradigm where they gave the mice the lion's mane. They saw the increase in the nerve growth factor, and in fact, they did see improvement in the size of the hippocampus. So this is the memory center in the brain. But what I liked most is their actual memory got better. So when we see that bridge, we see that gap, that gives me the most hope. Like, okay, maybe we're actually onto something here. The problem is that they actually gave these rodents the medication, i.e. the compound, directly into the brain. So it wasn't like it would be in humans where you would take a pill or a tincture, it would go in your gastrointestinal tract, it would break through the blood-brain barrier and then improve structure and then improve function. So we still have this issue. There's still this debate about what would happen if you actually gave it to the rodent as if a human would take it like a supplement, and we just don't have answers to that question yet. There have been a few human studies. So most of this has already been done by 2021. I didn't see much in the last 2 years, but there have been 0 meta-analyses, 0 systematic reviews, 1 pilot randomized controlled clinical trial with mild cognitive impairment, which is kind of a halfway between normal cognitive aging and dementia, and then 3 clinical trials. All of the human studies have been done in Japan. So I'm going to briefly tell you about those 3 human studies. So one was a double-blind clinical trial that showed that 1 gram of taking the medication in a pill was effective, that's their line, in improving mild cognitive impairment in 50 to 80-year-old Japanese men and women. So what they did is they studied their cognition for 2 weeks, and then 30 participants were randomized into the 2 groups. So only 15 people per group, so placebo and lion's mane. And the lion's mane group took 250 milligrams, which is incredibly high. I mean, most supplements maybe have 1 to 25 milligrams. 250 is extremely high. They took it 3 times a day for 16 weeks. They then stopped the supplementation and they were observed for 4 weeks. And then they went back at 8, 12, and 16 weeks. And what they showed was that the lion's mane group significantly improved their scores on the cognitive test compared to the placebo group. But there was a significant decrease in everyone's score after that. So I interpret that as just kind of like fuzzy data. It doesn't even necessarily make sense. So the experimental group got a little bit better. We stopped the medication. Then we see that there was a little bit of a sustained effect, but then both groups got worse. So it's just a little bit of messy data. There may be some translation issues with how that research was actually reported. The next one was in healthy older adults over the age of 15, 16, over the age of 50, 16 people in the treatment group, 15 people in the control group, and they took 3.2 grams of lion's mane over 12 weeks. They did have, everybody had significant improvement overall. and there was no difference between the groups. And so the way that we interpreted that is they're actually using the same test both times. So probably they're just actually measuring practice effect. So there wasn't any therapeutic benefit of the lion's mane over 12 weeks. The final study was done in Alzheimer's disease. So this was 20 people in the control group over the age of 50, 21 people in the treatment group, and they took 1.05 grams for almost an entire year. Very, very long study. There were no improvements in dementia-related behavior symptoms like delusions, anxiety, aggression. There was a trend in improvement in cognitive abilities from baseline in the treatment group, but they saw the trend only lasted till about week 25. So they continued taking it all the way up to the whole year, but it was after about week 25 that they started to see things leveling off. And overall, there was no difference in cognitive function in the baseline group or the treatment group. So the criticism here is that people who say if the mechanism of action is nerve growth factor, then you would actually see a sustained positive effect, because once the nerve growth factor can make the dendrites and the axons grow, they're going to be connected with other healthy brain cells, and there wouldn't ever be a tapering off period because the mechanism of action would already be in place. So there should never be a decline once you stop taking it if you really think through the theory that lion's mane is supposed to work. So there really should be sustained benefit after a period of time where there's enough nerve growth factor to reconnect brain cells. I hope that that makes sense. I went through many different crappy studies, but the ones that I distilled that actually were reasonably well done, I think that we have very limited insight. There is a very big gap in the literature on large-scale human trials. We also see a lack of evidence that we're actually able to get a tincture or a pill that we take through the blood-brain barrier. But, we also know a lot of new things based on the study of gut health and the connection to brain health, and that we actually have brain cells all throughout our gastrointestinal tract. So that old way of thinking that things have to actually get into the brain proper might be going away a little bit. It might be enough to have it be absorbed in the gut, and then through the vagus nerve, it can be communicated to the brain. I think that's at least possible. So clearly we need greater consistency in the studies. We need more human studies, but that's not going to lead me to not form an opinion, because you did come here to find out would I recommend it in my practice and would I recommend it for me? So if I was asked, would I take it? Is it a yay or a nay? I'm going to say it's a yay. So it's not, definitely not a no. It's definitely not an enthusiastic yes, but is it a yeah? Okay. So I don't think it's a cure for any brain health thing, but is it safe? Yes, I do think it's safe. The risk is minimal. I think it's generally considered to be safe for prolonged consumption. 2 small clinical trials suggested the most adverse effect was mild gastrointestinal issues. 1 gram per dose seems to be about the sweet spot. Even up to 3 grams a day is demonstrated to be safe. It's pretty affordable, so a 1 month's dose is around $20. The biggest problem I've said before with supplements is the quality assurance issue. What's actually in there? Are you getting what you think you're getting? Some of the biggest brands have been exposed for actually having no mushrooms at all in their supplements. I usually recommend Pure Encapsulations as a company because they have third-party testing. It's made in the USA, no fillers, no allergens, but they only have a mushroom blend, not a pure lion's mane, and it's a pill. And I don't think, after my research, that the pill of lion's mane is actually the best delivery system. I think it is going to be a hot water and alcohol extraction. So we don't want the tincture to be alcohol free. We actually want it preserved in alcohol to help those neurotropic compounds, if they are in there and they are going to be able to have a beneficial effect, stay in their most potent form. So would I take lion's mane? Well, Ta-da! Look right there. In fact, this just came today through Amazon and I already had my first dose. So this is Lone Star Mushroom Tincture, $22.95. It meets all my criteria except it's not third-party tested, but you can't get everything you want all the time. Most companies who put mushrooms in a therapeutic dosing are from China, and there is little to no regulations over there, and that concerns me. So USA created, USA manufactured, sent from the USA is definitely an important thing to me. I'm going to have the link below. There is no pressure to buy this through this link, but if you do, we get like 2 cents, and it helps us to continue our mission of free brain health information for all. I am going to try to use this twice a day as recommended for about a month, and I'm going to get back to you. My informed opinion is that I am more enthusiastic about mushroom medicine than any other over-the-counter, any other nootropic. At this point, probably individual people's testimony is the quickest and most realistic way that we're going to know how it affects us in the brain health community. So let's collect experiences in the comments. Have you tried it? If so, what do you think? What have you used? How do you take it? After this lecture, are you any more likely or unlikely to supplement with lion's mane mushroom? I am going to get back to you guys in about a month and let you know if I think that there's been any significant improvement. What I would be looking for in it is more focus, more concentration. Also, somebody in my family recently had a retinal detachment, and because of that research that suggested it helps retinal cells regrow, I'm actually going to be bringing this over to my loved one this afternoon and having him try it for about a month, and we'll see if maybe he gets some improvement. I certainly don't think there's any clear risks, and if it works, wouldn't that be wonderful? The truth of the matter is many of you in the brain health community are desperate for some type of support. I wouldn't rely on this to do anything super powerful, but again, let's think about this kind of fertilizer mentality. Is there anything we can put into the brain health system that will at least support neuroplasticity? I think it's okay to give it a try. All right, that's what I have to say for now. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.